Breaking tonight, Ottawa is under fire for not revealing an Iranian missile strike on an airbase in Kuwait where Canadian soldiers are stationed.
This is a failure of the government and not sharing with Canadians exactly how Canada is impacted by this war.
What we know about the strike in the early days of the war and the damage it caused. Plus, as the war in the Middle East rages on, At Issue will be here to unpack the government's response so far. And a message of defiance from Iran's new supreme leader.
همچنین از رزمندگان
What it says about where the conflict could be going.
Also tonight, the effects of the war could soon be driving up your airfares.
Aviation fuel has gone up about 58% over the past week.
Factoring rising fuel costs into your travel plans. Plus, a CBC News investigation reveals 2 deaths in just 4 months at Winnipeg blood plasma collection centers.
The probability of someone getting very seriously harmed by donating plasma is like getting struck by lightning.
Why Manitoba says it's now considering banning paid plasma donations.
From CBC News, this is The National with Erica Johnson and Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Tonight, we're in Riyadh as Saudi Arabia and the rest of the region confronts the first public message thought to be from Iran's new leader, which boils down to this: the regime wants revenge. Newly anointed Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, his father killed on the first day of the war, vowed to avenge what he called the blood of Iran's martyrs, to keep the vital oil corridor of the Hormuz Strait closed, and to continue attacking the countries here of the Gulf. The threat not idle. This building in Kuwait, one of several targets damaged by an Iranian drone. Despite a 12-day U.S. and Israeli effort to eliminate Iran's leaders and military, it is still launching attacks. Now, Kuwait, a target throughout this war, and tonight we're learning that includes Canadian troops there. Rafi Boudjikanian has what we know about an Iranian attack that hit the Canadian section of a U.S. base days ago, confirmed by Ottawa only now.
12 days after the U.S. and Israel launched the war and Iran's counterattack hit Canadian sections of a U.S. airbase, the opposition is asking, why was the government silent?
This is a failure of the government of not wanting to communicate, not being transparent, and not sharing with Canadians exactly how Canada is impacted by this war.
He didn't see fit to inform neither the media, the population, or the parliament.
This after French-language newspaper La Presse revealed this morning Iranian missiles struck a bunker, part of Cap Canada on U.S. airbase Ali Al-Salam in Kuwait, across Iran on the Persian Gulf, just hours after the U.S. and Israel started their war on Iran on March 1st.
I have not been privy to some of the reporting that has developed, but I did speak with Minister McGuinty this morning, and he affirmed to me that all lives are accounted for.
I'm not the only spokesperson for the government, but I'll just confirm that Canadian forces are, the members of the Canadian forces are all safe and sound. We are not engaged in these actions of the U.S. and Israel. We're not engaged in offensive actions.
In a statement, the Defense Department added, for operational security reasons, we do not discuss assessments of damage or impacts to military facilities. Efforts have focused on the force protection of CAF members, including relocating some within the region, staying in their location if force protection is appropriate, and, where applicable, redeploying some back to Canada. Ottawa could have disclosed more without further jeopardizing Canadian soldiers, says this analyst.
I think there's always lots of ways that you can actually convey the import of what's happening, that Canadian forces were in a place that, was in the vicinity of some place that was attacked. I mean, the Iranians have hit so many different installations right now that wouldn't really pin things down very much.
Canadians have been on this base for more than a decade, ramping up under former Prime Minister Stephen Harper during operations against ISIS. But the Defense Department would not tell us how many personnel are still there now.
And so, Rafi, what about other countries? Have they been more transparent about that particular attack?
The Pentagon has not answered questions about it, though American media like the New York Times used satellite imagery in the early hours following the assault to piece together what happened. Italy also has troops there who were not hurt in the incident either. Its foreign minister briefed media there when it happened.
All right, thank you. That is Rafi Boudjikani in Ottawa tonight. We have more on Ottawa's response to the war. Rosie will be here with At Issue a little later in the hour. Now, the message from Iran's new leader tonight gives no sign the regime is looking for an early end to the war. And as Margaret Evans shows us from Erbil, Iraq, that has many bracing for more escalation.
Dramatic images released by Iranian state television showing an apparent Iranian attack overnight on 2 oil tankers off the coast of Iraq. And by daylight, as residents in Tehran took stock of recent U.S.-Israeli strikes, Iranian state television was broadcasting a first message from Iran's new supreme leader. Not a video, nor even a voice recording, but a statement read out on his behalf by a news anchor. Outlining Mojtaba Khamenei's apparent war priorities, including blocking of the Strait of Hormuz, opening other fronts where the enemy is highly vulnerable, and to keep attacking U.S. bases in the region. Khamenei hasn't been seen in public since his father was killed in a deliberate attack on the first day of the war. It's been suggested Mojtaba was injured at the time. The statement is a clear regime effort to assert authority and continuity in the wake of Ali Khamenei's death, and to deliver a defiant message to Iran's enemies as the war is poised to enter a third week. In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was listing his priorities, repeating the suggestion that Iran's new supreme leader won't be in the job for long. The UN Secretary General is urging the warring parties to return to diplomacy, citing the chaos unleashed on the world by the conflict.
As always, the most vulnerable are being hurt first and worst. The region and the world desperately need an off-ramp.
But not everyone wants one, at least not yet.
When negotiations are not successful, the next step is to use force.
Mohammed Sharif Ibrahimi is a Kurdish-Iranian academic and exile in neighboring Iraq who hopes the U.S. and Israel will still go for regime change.
If it's not possible to change the regime by force in the future, for sure, so Iranian people will change the regime.
But given the regime appears, if anything, to be doubling down, that's a time frame that's hard to predict. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Erbil, Northern Iraq.
Those Israeli strikes hit central Beirut, unusually close to the Lebanese Prime Minister's office and several foreign embassies. Other strikes hit Beirut's southern suburbs, considered a Hezbollah stronghold. Israel's campaign is intensifying after the militant group launched a large joint attack with Iran overnight. Israel's defense minister is now threatening to take Lebanese territory if Lebanon's government fails to rein in Hezbollah's attacks. The growing struggles of civilians in Lebanon, addressed by Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, Anita Anand.
The $37 million that we are announcing today recognizes that this conflict has placed enormous strain on the Lebanese people.
The government said the funding will go through UN agencies and the Red Cross to provide food, water, medical services, and shelter. The United Nations says about 700,000 people in Lebanon have been displaced by fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Iran's attacks also continue against the Gulf states, the toll on this region's oil infrastructure seeming to grow by the day. The government of Bahrain posted this video. It's a raging fire at an oil storage facility after what it says was an Iranian attack. In Dubai, a drone opened a gaping hole in this high-rise building. The UAE government says it intercepted 10 ballistic missiles and dozens of drones over the past 24 hours, but clearly some appear to be getting through. And here in Saudi Arabia, Erica, as of not that long ago, the reported tally for interceptions of drones this day alone was 33. Some aimed, officials maintained, at the diplomatic quarter, some at the oil fields, and a military base.
And is that being felt by people there, Adrienne?
I think it's mixed. Things are happening, but you don't necessarily feel it. Life carries on, but there are some signals. So, for example, the Ministry of Defense released a swelling propaganda video today. It's a show of strength, also an effort to reassure Saudis. Someone we know here got an alert on their phone today about an aerial threat and to stay indoors. What happened there, though, we may not know. And if you look behind me, that's the financial district. We've been told we cannot now film in that district at all. Not clear. Why not? Is it because Iran has threatened to hit head offices of American businesses in the Gulf? It's really hard to know. Information is very tightly controlled here. So for now, Erica, that is it from us here in Riyadh. I'll send it back to you in Vancouver.
Thanks, Adrienne. Tonight, Mark Carney is en route to Norway for a trip focused on Arctic security. But before leaving, he made a major defense announcement in the Northwest Territories. The Prime Minister pledged tens of billions for new and upgraded defense infrastructure in a number of locations across the north. It's intended to beef up the military's capabilities there. As Catherine Tunney shows, Carney made it clear Canada is working to defend its sovereignty, and he wants allies to take notice.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Prime Minister Mark Carney unveiling a plan to protect the Northwest Territories and beyond.
We will no longer rely on others to defend our Arctic security or to fuel our economy. We're taking full responsibility for defending our sovereignty.
The investment, $35 billion, the bulk of it previously announced. The focus, expanding the military's footprint. That includes building new hangars that can house fighter jets, upgrading airfields and munition compounds, and building up the energy capacity needed to power it all. Carney also promised to build new hubs and support stations in remote areas so soldiers can respond to a crisis no matter how far north, and suggested the spending isn't over.
The threat environment is constantly evolving, so we will be constantly updating what we need.
Some of these projects are already underway. Others will take more than a decade to realize. But all of it is intended to underscore his government's focus on security, both at home and abroad. Next, Carney will meet allies above the Arctic Circle in northern Norway, where, along with the Norwegian Prime Minister and German Chancellor, he'll observe a massive NATO exercise on Friday. He'll meet Canadian troops who, alongside some 25,000 allied soldiers, are training in harsh conditions. The timing not lost on experts who point to recent tensions with the U.S., some suggesting it's part of a broader political message.
The Nordic countries coming together with Canada, having leaders visit the military exercise in northern Norway. This tells Donald Trump that we've got Arctic security covered.
From there, Carney heads to the UK, where he'll meet with Prime Minister Keir Starmer and have an audience with King Charles. Catherine Tunney, CBC News, Yellowknife.
In Michigan, a suspected attacker is dead tonight after ramming his car, reportedly packed with explosives, into a synagogue near Detroit. The FBI calling it a targeted act of violence.
This is a deeply disturbing and tragic incident, and our deepest sympathies are with the victims, their family, and the entire Jewish community.
After the crash, the armed driver exchanged gunfire with security guards before he was fatally shot. One guard was injured by the vehicle but is expected to recover. The synagogue is home to a daycare and school. More than 100 children were inside when this happened. No students or staff were injured. Manitoba is considering banning paying for plasma after 2 recent deaths. A CBC News investigation first revealed the deaths at private clinics, now under review by Health Canada. Michelle Allen shows us the demand for answers tonight.
Those who knew Rodiat Elabedi say she was a kind soul. The 22-year-old international student dreamed of becoming a social worker.
Myself, my friends, my family, her family, we're all in the dark, and I know it's like she's already gone, but it would give us a lot of closure to know what actually happened.
Last October, Alabedi gave plasma at a private clinic in Winnipeg. Friends say she collapsed and her heart stopped, and that she died in the ambulance en route to the hospital. Health Canada said it received 2 reports of fatal adverse reactions from 2 different Grifols locations in Winnipeg.
What does it mean to donate plasma? Why
now, Manitoba says it's considering banning paying for plasma.
We have to be willing to make a decision whether it's banning paid plasma or putting in other mechanisms to protect the public.
The provincial health minister says a decision will be made once Health Canada's investigation is complete.
These organizations and companies that are for profit, they must be accountable to Manitobans.
So far, Health Canada says it has not found a link between the plasma donations and the death. The for-profit Spanish company has 2 locations in Manitoba, with more in 5 other provinces. It pays around $30 to $100 per donation, using the plasma to make medications. In a statement, the company said, "We were saddened to learn of the recent passings of 2 of our donors. Our sincere condolences go to their families." This expert says plasma donation is usually very safe.
The probability of someone getting very seriously harmed by donating plasma is like getting struck by lightning.
He says 2 deaths just months apart is unheard of and raises questions. Like, did staff have sufficient training? Were the machines working correctly? Were donors being adequately screened? And did they have any underlying health conditions? Grifols says it has extensive screening measures in place, like health history evaluations and a physical exam. Alabedi's friends say they don't know why she or the other donor died, but that they deserve answers. Michelle Allen, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Liberal government is reintroducing a security bill criticized for overreaching on police powers and privacy. The new bill makes changes, but as Ashley Burke tells us, some critics say it still may go too far.
After outcry over privacy concerns, the Liberal government taking a second crack at changing the law to help track down suspected criminals faster.
We're not looking for sneaky ways to surveil Canadians. We're doing our part to combat bad actors in both the physical and digital worlds.
The Liberals tabling a revised bill with a more narrow scope.
The kinds of things that we heard was that there was potentially overbreadth with the first version of the law.
The first version proposed giving police in Canada's spy service the power to demand information about suspected criminals without a warrant from doctors, hotels, car rental services, and more.
The original drafting of C2 was so broadly worded that it actually encroached upon privacy rights.
The new bill focuses on compelling telecom companies like internet and phone providers to hand over information about suspects quicker.
From internet child exploitation to extortions to home invasions to carjackings to drive-by shootings to hate-motivated crime to extremism, lawful access is absolutely required, and it's required now.
Police say it's required because companies are stalling investigations.
This can take weeks and months to really get this information.
This privacy law expert says the government's new bill addresses some core concerns, but there are still real issues.
There is going to be a real need for study, and I think consideration as to whether or not it goes too far relates to the kind of surveillance infrastructure that ultimately is being built.
Michael Geist said he's concerned that this law could lead to companies installing monitoring and surveillance equipment on their networks and devices, undermining Canadians' privacy. He says once that happens, it won't go away. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Plane ticket prices are beginning to spike as the price of oil continues to surge.
Aviation fuel represents approximately 25% of an airline's cost.
How Canadian carriers are responding. Portable MRIs used mid-surgery and resulting in better outcomes for patients.
Having the instant feedback is what I think a game changer.
How the technology works. And a new knuckle hop world record. We're back in 2.
All the teams polled go to launch and fly Artemis II. Around the moon,
All systems are go for an early April launch of NASA's Artemis II test flight. That's the verdict after the space agency completed its flight readiness review. But there's still work to do before the rocket leaves the vehicle assembly building and moves back to the launch pad next week. The Artemis mission aims to send Canadian Jeremy Hansen and 3 other astronauts around the moon and back to Earth. If you're booking flights in the weeks or months ahead, expect to pay more for your ticket. The war in the Middle East has sent jet fuel prices soaring. And as Anis Hidari explains, some airlines say they have no choice but to raise fares.
It's getting more expensive to fly because jet fuel costs are taking off. Yet another consequence of nearly paralyzed energy shipments in and out of the Persian Gulf with the Strait of Hormuz. So around the world, airlines are increasing prices.
Aviation fuel represents approximately 25% of an airline's cost. So that is significant. In some cases, that's more than labor costs for an airline.
And the industry says prices don't usually shoot up this fast.
Globally, aviation fuel has gone up about 58% over the past week. So we have seen some significant increases.
In this country, Air Transat already increasing fares and surcharges, and Air Canada says it is adjusting pricing. WestJet said pricing adjustments are likely. Porter says it's too early to predict increases. But leaving Canada on Cathay Pacific, at least $100 extra soon. It's not just them.
U.S. airlines have increased their fares. Airlines pretty much everywhere in the world are increasing their fares or fuel surcharges or both to account for the higher cost of jet fuel.
And if you want to find a bargain, travel agents say don't procrastinate.
Booking earlier will often get you the best rate. So we're encouraging people, if you do know you want to travel, that it is, we are suggesting that you're better to book early than to wait and hope, because we have not seen that prices actually go down. We only see that they rise.
Whether price increases slow down could entirely depend on whether oil shipments can speed back up. Anis Hidari, CBC News, Calgary.
Portable MRIs are becoming more prevalent in Canada with an eye on making treatment more accessible.
Instead of the patient coming to the scanner coming to the patient.
How the devices are making some surgeries more effective. After the break, Rosie's here with At Issue.
Hey, Erica. Tonight, we're going to talk about Nunavut MP Laurie Idlau crossing the floor to the Liberals and what motivated that decision.
We've had conversations about what we can do, both large and small, in Nunavut.
So what does this latest move mean for the Liberals' hunt for a majority government? Chantal, Althea, and Aaron Wary join me to talk about that and more.
Crews are gradually restoring power to thousands of Quebecers after freezing rain and high winds brought down power lines overnight. At the height of the outages, more than 200,000 customers were in the dark. While the province did manage to avoid the worst of the forecasted ice storm, some schools remained closed due to poor road conditions. Doctors call it the new frontier of medical care. Portable MRI machines designed to scan patients' brains mid-surgery or in remote locations. As Lauren Pelly shows us, the high-tech tools are revolutionizing stroke and trauma treatment.
Portable brain scanners sound like the stuff of science fiction, but doctors say they're making a real difference during complex procedures.
Having the instant feedback is what I think a game changer.
Last fall, Ontario neurosurgeon Dr. Neil Dougal first used a portable MRI during a surgery to remove a patient's pituitary gland tumor. His team worked in a tiny space flanked by arteries and nerves leading to the eyes and brain.
If we injure those arteries, that can lead to a catastrophic hemorrhage, a stroke, or death.
Usually surgeons remove as much of the mass as possible, then wait for a traditional follow-up MRI to see what's left. Now, Dougal's team can scan patients partway through and safely remove even more tumor growth, giving people like Dave Evans better outcomes and fewer follow-up procedures.
I was just over the moon in terms of knowing that they were able to use this technology and it had benefited me the way it did.
More Canadian healthcare teams are now using portable MRIs and CT scanners. There are at least 16 mobile devices operating across the country, and some are shared by multiple communities.
The technology is incredible.
Traditional scanners are large, more expensive, and stay in one place. Researchers who study portable options say they can supplement those devices in hospitals or reach patients in remote and rural areas.
The idea is to sort of flip the paradigm. Instead of the patient coming to the scanner coming to the patient.
But portable machines do have downsides.
There are real differences between some of the lower field scanners that will be highly portable and still the traditional clinical grade scanner.
Even so, researchers say there's huge potential for these futuristic devices in the not-so-distant future. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Now let's break down the news shaping our world. Tonight, Rosie's here with At Issue.
At Issue tonight, an NDP MP crosses the floor.
I'm very honored to welcome Lori to our caucus.
Becoming the 4th MP to join the Liberals and the first from the New Democrats.
Mr. Carney is trying to stitch together a majority government.
Lori Idlout says there were multiple issues pushing her to join.
Like with any complicated issue, it wasn't just one thing that happened. There were a variety of many things that have allowed me to really reflect on this.
This move now brings the Liberals just 2 seats short of a majority, with 3 by-elections set for next month. So why are so many MPs joining Carney's team? What could this latest move mean for the government, for the NDP? I'm Rosemary Barton, here to break it all down tonight. Chantal Hébert, Althea Raj, and in for Mr. Coyne tonight, Aaron Wary joins us. Thanks for being here, all of you. Appreciate it. Chantal, I'll start with you. I mean, I think one of my colleagues is working on the story of how many people have crossed at what time. But I personally have never seen this many people in one go from 2 different parties join the government. And I wonder what it says to you about Mark Carney, the Liberals, the moment we're in.
So if Joe Clark is listening to us, he would remember that the day he re-entered the House of Commons as leader of a much diminished progressive conservative party was the day when Jean Chrétien announced that he'd managed to convince a number of his MPs, mostly from Quebec, to cross over to the Liberals. These things have happened in the past. They will happen. What's different this time is that I have not found, my hard disk is pretty good, but it's not bulletproof. I haven't found examples at the federal level of crossovers that changed the status of the government. I've seen, Belinda Stronach crossed over and saved Paul Martin's government from a confidence vote. I've watched Stephen Harper swear in David Emerson, who was a Liberal minister until he was a Conservative minister a few weeks after the election. But this numbers game is, I guess, what makes it different.
Yeah.
Why it's happening, I think Canadians are still in the mood that they were in a year ago when they picked a government, i.e. they're still doing the job interview thing. Who do we want to handle Donald Trump and this kind of troubled situation? That is difficult for the Bloc Québécois, even more difficult for the NDP that doesn't not have a leader, and difficult, obviously, for Pierre Poilievre. So if you're going to try to be on some side of this fight and have some impact, you're probably going to pick the Liberals, because the polls, the appreciation of both leaders tell you that this is where you want to be. And I'm guessing that's part of the mix.
So between this and then the 3 by-elections to come in April, 2 of which are pretty much, Liberal strongholds, and then that 3rd in Quebec, what does this change materially for the government, Althea, or what could it change for the government?
We will probably have prorogation and a throne speech to reset everything, to basically give the Liberals a majority on committees that is where, if there have been any roadblocks, there have been, I would say roadblocks, delays maybe. In most cases, delays that helped actually make the legislation better, if I can say. So that's what we're going to see. It's a very slight majority if there's not a general election call. We are told that they're still talking, notably to Conservatives, so it's possible there will be more floor crossers. The Liberals are a bit antsy of a 1 or 2 seat majority because it still means that you need to count seats and make sure nobody's sick and nobody's in the bathroom and your own MPs don't start to negotiate. And we saw this week, for example, 15 Liberals vote on an NDP private members bill. Some of these Liberals are not in entire agreement with the Mark Carney agenda as it has been presented since the election. And so you could see a scenario where actually the opposition comes from the Liberal benches, with the backbench MPs feeling emboldened to ask for things from the executive to win their vote.
Well, that's a really good point, Erin. Does this give backbench Liberals more leverage? Does it make it harder for the Prime Minister to keep this interesting coalition together? Or because he's so high in the polls and what's going on in the world, none of those things really factor in anymore?
I mean, I think the polls are obviously a major influence here, right? The MPs don't cross to parties that are trailing in the polls. And I also suspect that, to Chantel's point, that part of the reason you're seeing MPs cross is because the governing party, has a real motivation to draw them to their side, right? If the Liberals had a majority right now, they probably wouldn't be expending much effort looking for floor crossers. Sure. That said, to your question and to Althea's point, I do think there is an interesting potential narrative here where the Liberals get to a narrow majority and suddenly it's the Liberal backbench, which we know has shown itself to have a bit of an independent streak, starts, exerting a bit more influence and is able to kind of steer the government. You look at, for instance, obviously it wasn't a piece of legislation, but Will Greaves speaking up about the government's position on Iran. Well, if the Liberals are really clinging to 1 or 2 seats for a majority, it will be interesting to see whether some Liberal backbenchers start to kind of try to exert some influence.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about Iran in the next block a little bit, Chantal.
But that's kind of reassuring, because what we're basically saying is even if the government does end up with a very slim majority, there will still be debate and conditions on whether it can move forward, which is not the same as coming back to Parliament with a sweep after an election, where you can basically afford to lose people along the way. I also think that voters, and not just polls, voters are behind this in the sense that this is a very mission-oriented government by virtue of voters' wills. They wanted someone to handle Donald Trump and how we deal with the way forward. But that is also on the Prime Minister, but on MPs. And it does drive opposition MPs to want to be part of this in a constructive fashion, rather than just sit back and shoot at the government, as opposition parties tend to do in less serious times. So I believe that is the main attraction. It's not that you could win your seat tomorrow. There's not going to be an election, I don't think. It's that you would probably, and the voters who supported you would want you to be on the good side of this fight. And I think that is going to become a big problem for Pierre Poilievre that he is trying to address now.
Yeah, he is.
But it stands to become more complicated.
What does it mean for the NDP, Althea? How obviously they're not an officially recognized party, so losing anyone is a problem. But what do you think it means for them?
What does it mean for the NDP? Actually, well, it's not good news, obviously, and it's not good news for Avi Lewis, who we believe is the front runner to win the NDP leadership race later this month, but that is based on fundraising numbers more than anything. Who was endorsed by Laureate Loud just last Thursday in Ottawa at a big event down the street here with 800 people. So, he got his second caucus endorsement, and a week later she crosses the floor and joins the Liberals. What does that say about Mr. Lewis's grip on what's going on? The other part of that is that the NDP, they're kind of just like dropping like flies, right? Alexandre Boulris has announced, well, actually he hasn't announced yet, but we believe that he is going to be running for Quebec Solidaire in the fall. So they were 7, then they're 6, now they're probably going to be 5. But it is an opportunity in a way for the new leader to put their stamp on the party, but more than anything, I think it just speaks to the loss of an NDP voice in the House of Commons. It is so noticeable that you don't have a progressive voice. I don't want to say aside from the Bloc Québécois, but the Bloc comes at issues from a very Quebec perspective, and it is very noticeable in the chamber that voice is missing.
Last 32 there, Aaron.
Yeah, look, I think it's also worth remembering that this isn't the only New Democrat that has joined the Liberals. Their candidate in Scarborough Southwest was an Ontario New Democrat. Mm-hmm. I think it complicates the previous narrative that the reason Mark Carney was attracting floor crossers is because he was essentially a conservative. He was attracting conservative floor crossers. I think the last, point I'll make, or the last question I'd raise is whether this changes the way Mark Carney governs. If he gets a majority, does he become bolder? We've seen this government show a bit of a streak of wanting to move and then having to kind of correct, or as Althea, I think, pointed out, listen to opposition amendments. Does he become a little less willing to course correct and a little bit bolder if he gets to a majority?
Okay. We're going to take a quick break. Thank you. That was a good part of the conversation. When we come back, speaking of course correcting, we'll talk about how Canada is responding to the developing situation in the Middle East.
Emphasizing and pushing on the needs of Canadians in the region, as well as the need for de-escalation.
So what challenges have the Liberals faced in addressing the war in the Middle East? How is it being felt here in Canada? That's next. At issue, war in the Middle East. Canada continues to call for de-escalation to the conflict.
The humanitarian situation across the Middle East remains volatile. Canada is committed to supporting diplomatic efforts aimed at reducing tension.
The Conservatives remain supportive of the U.S.-Israeli mission in Iran, but are calling for the government to act here at home.
We are calling on the government to table a plan to get rid of these terrorists that are on Canadian soil.
So what's been made of how Ottawa has responded to the conflict in the Middle East? Chantal, Althea, and Aaron are all back for that. I should be clear that the Conservatives are looking for the government to deport members of the IRGC. That's something they've long talked about, but they're making their point again this week. It was stark, Althea, to see the government talk about what it's doing after a difficult period, clarifying its own position, as we talked about last week, and then to see the Conservatives take a very clear position on supporting the mission, and then sort of some of the things that they want done in Canada. What do you make of the contrast of those positions, or how do you explain them?
Well, the Conservatives have been pretty consistent with their position. And it's this position that they basically hold even pre the attacks on Iran, so it's not like they're flip-flopping. I do think that the nuance of the federal government's position is still almost being shaped, finessed, if you will. On the IRGC, I do think it's an important point because the Canadian government says it also shares that desire. There are several members that they have identified that the officials use the number of 30, but there are reports that there are far more than that. And they have not actually answered why these people have not been deported or whether or not they have been deported. There's a number suggesting that only one person has been deported. There was a committee meeting on Parliament Hill this week where basically the Canadian public was told that no one's being deported because there are no flights to Iran at the moment. But that doesn't explain why they haven't been deported over the last several years. So I think those questions will remain. I think it brings a whole bunch of other issues to the forefront we've seen this week, not just about deportations of people that should not be here and have been found to not be allowed to be here, but also violence against synagogues in this country. The response that you kind of would have expected, a kind of plead for calm from political leaders that I feel was kind of missing this week.
Although they did announce some funding for additional
They announced
security
funding,
at
but you would
synagogues,
think that, you know, when you have 3 synagogues being shot at, there's a cabinet minister or the prime minister who says this is completely unacceptable, and, you know, like, you can feel very passionately about what's happening abroad, but it doesn't mean that you can target your neighbors.
Sure. Aaron, what do you make of how challenging this seems to be to navigate for the government? And I mean, it's always more challenging for the government, certainly, but this in particular.
I think it's been quite challenging for the first week or so of this conflict. And, you know, as you guys talked about last week, the changing position in it, I guess it's settled now on a call for de-escalation. You know, they haven't gone so far as saying they want a ceasefire, but it sort of feels like they're moving in that direction of wanting the conflict to be over. I think, you know, I think there's a couple of things going on. One is, as this conflict, the ramifications of it sort of ripple outward, the parties are going to have to deal with those things. You know, for instance, high gas prices, you know, possibility of a global recession, all of the economic consequences. The government in particular is going to have to confront those and figure out a way to respond to them. And then I think the other piece of it is, for at least the Liberals and the Conservatives, as the ramifications get worse, or if they get worse, I think the questions are going to come back to those original positions they took. And the questions are going to have to be, do you regret supporting this in the first place? Do you, you know, for the Conservatives, for instance, do you really believe that the goal of regime change was a good idea? You know, I think that's sort of the position the two parties are in, you know, is having to not only kind of deal with the ramifications that are coming out of it, but also now explain that original position they took.
Well, given we don't even really know what you know, success for the United States and Israel looks like concretely, that seems to be quite different approaches for both of those countries. Chantal.
Yeah, well, I do think that the reasons why there are stresses inside the government mostly stem from the haste that the Prime Minister brought to the issue when he took a position. And on that basis, I believe that's more fixable than the kind of strains that resulted from the Israel versus Gaza and Palestine issue, which really tore apart some sections and threatened Justin Trudeau with resignations at a fairly high level. Now, that being said, if I were a Liberal, I would be happy for the Conservative position on this, because it does leave them vulnerable to the absence of regime change and kind of brings them cover. If you are the government, your main opponent is going to be the official opposition. The official opposition so far is saying this is all good and we support this mission. It doesn't look like the mission that they're supporting is the mission that's actually happening. And at some point, I believe it's going to come back to bite the official opposition more than the Liberals, which is fine for the Liberals, even if the Prime Minister was hasty in his support, because he can say, well, at least I reconsider.
Yeah.
So I think that's basically where we are at. The other issues are interesting. I'm not denying that we should be looking at why there has not been more action on deportations or what's happening. I do believe there's an absence of leadership on what's been happening at synagogues. But they are two different conversations.
Yeah.
And the central conversation does not involve one or the other.
Okay, got to leave it there. Thank you all for being here tonight. That is at issue on The National. Anyway, we're going to keep talking, though. This time we'll talk about Pierre Poilievre, his speaking tour heading south of the border. You can catch that on YouTube or the At Issue podcast. Now back to Erica in Vancouver.
Thanks, Rosie. Coming up, a knuckle-hopping performance for the ages.
The cheering of the crowd and some of my competitors, that carried me quite a few extra feet.
The Canadians' record-breaking showing next in our moment. This is Chris Stipdonk knuckle-hopping his way to a new world record at the Arctic Winter Games. His performance secured gold for the Northwest Territories while cementing his position at the very top of the physically grueling sport. And now it makes our moment.
I broke the world record and Arctic Winter Game record in the knuckle hop. I went a distance of 217 feet beating the old record, which was 206 feet. It feels really special.
The knuckle hop is a plain endurance competition.
A long time ago, it was a strategy used to sneak up onto seals. It's beauty and grace along with strength and technique. Coming around that corner at 170 feet, I was getting very, very tired. The cheering of the crowd and some of my competitors, that carried me quite a few extra feet. Once I knew that I had passed that world record, I got to celebrate. I held back some tears.
It was just a really special moment for our whole team. When he won the gold, a lot of us were really, really happy for him.
I'm really tired and sore, but you know, I'm feeling fantastic. It's a good day for me.
Now, if you're wondering if that is as painful as it looks, apparently the answer is yep. But there is a technique you can use to try to lessen the impact on those knuckles. The Arctic Winter Games are only held once every 3 years, so that gives the knuckles time to heal. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Erica Johnson in Vancouver. Take care.